Congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
Take me back to that first initial conversation with Kate many, many years ago, as you both tried to get this film to where you are now. And what struck you about that first conversation?
Well, the film itself started with Kate buying that table, which belonged to the Penrose family. And after that, we had conversations about Lee Miller then because we both knew about Lee Miller, because years before that, when we were working on Eternal Sunshine, we had talked about Lee Miller because Kate had an uncanny resemblance to Lee Miller and still does. And also there have been numerous books written by Roland Penrose, the son of Lee Miller, which is about Lee Miller and who he was as a photographer. So cut to 2018, Kate comes to New York to visit me and she says, "Elle, I have a script. It's about Lee Miller. We've been wanting to work on a project together. I would love for you to direct this film." And so that's how it first started. I said, "Oh my God, I would love to do this." And I've been working on other scripts to direct, but this is a huge opportunity. What a great opportunity to be able to work with a close friend who happens to be an incredible actress, who wants to play the lead in the movie. And, what an opportunity, because, making films is still difficult for women, especially making films about women, by women, is very unusual. So the fact that we were like, okay, we're throwing everything in, I'm in, you're in, let's shape the script to get it to be a movie script, one that has a beginning, middle, and an end, and structure it a little bit, and that's how it started.
There's a wonderful cast in this, and I was very surprised by it. I knew some of the people that were in it, but then watching the film, other people popped up, and I was like, it's incredible that you've got all these people. What was it like for you as a director to have that ensemble at your disposal to tell this story?
Well, as a director, having that cast of that caliber was phenomenal. Everyone was, very well seasoned, also well prepared, who, had taken into consideration their characters. And, working with people who really know their craft and where you can shape things slightly just to shape the tone of something or even if you needed to redo something, they're totally on board. They are consummate professionals and very sensitive and also great people. That was one of the other things, is we wanted to work with people who are part of our team, work with people who are kind to each other and compassionate. And that counts for a lot because, in the film industry, there can be a lot of ego, a lot of hierarchy. And that was one of the ideas that we had put together coming to this. But, working with that cast, I was really fortunate to have Kate as a producer who could call up Marion Cotillard and say, "Marion, would you be in this film?" But, beyond my wildest dreams, to be able to work with actors as the director. I've worked with many, many, well-known actors behind the camera as a DOP, but it's very different when you're able to have that kind of connection in a different way.
Yeah. As a final question, if your local cinema is showing a Kate film, a classic Kate film, and you go and pay your $10 and go and see it, is there a performance of hers that you will always go and pay to see and relive it over and over and over again?
Interestingly, it's numerous films, actually. When I think about Kate's performances and how resonant they are, through her time as an actress, stemming from Sense and Sensibility, which I really loved, and I loved her in, to a very obscure film, Jude, which I just fell in love with when I saw it, and I've watched it many, many, many times. And people don't know about that, but it's something that she did along the way. Heavenly Creatures. So, these are films that I saw many years ago that I kept in my heart. And of course, we all know the Titanic. And the Titanic, I can also watch and still feel a real connection to her. It's a hugely popular film, but her performance is very precise when you really look at what she's doing, her body movements, and it was a very difficult shoot from what I understand, but also going back to Eternal Sunshine, which I have to say, as someone who helped to make it, I don't often go back and look at it all the time. I mean, I know that from a lot of people who work on films. They don't look at their own films often. But I've had the opportunity to look at that film again because of screenings and also because we remastered it. And it's just remarkable how she's able to move from one place to the other in that. And she was really quite young when she did that film. I mean, when we think about Kate as an actress starting at such a young age and being able to develop in time. And now we see her as a 70-year-old.
She could do anything. She could read the phone book and everyone would go and see it, I think. Congratulations on the film again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!